What's going on, guys? The weekend is almost here, and we know that the weekend is almost here. That means that we have the NFL this week. 4 teams remaining for the NFC and AFC championship game. That's all good. So let's get into it. We're going to have the 49ers playing the Detroit Lions at San Francisco. Throughout this whole course of the week, I've been seeing a lot of things. And a lot of people saying that Detroit's going to get blown out. They're not going to have a chance. They're not going to be able to score any points. It's going to be a tough game for them. I got news for you people. I'm going to be very, very careful when I say this. Very careful. You guys are wrong about that. And here's why you guys are wrong about that. It's going to be a good game. Don't get me wrong. San Francisco's going to play great. Detroit's going to play great. But if you think that Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions, aren't going to have those guys ready to go, you are sadly mistaken. Because he's had those guys ready to go ever since he first got the job. And they're in the championship game. And he's still going to have them ready to go. He's still going to have them fired up. They still going to get after it. They going to give you everything they got. Even if they do lose, that Dan Campbell team going to give you everything they got because they feed off his energy. They feed off his energy, which is what a team is supposed to do when their coach fires them up. They going to feed off the energy. They going to get a lot of boos and all that. Yeah, sure. They're away. They going to feed off that too. But they've been hearing all this stuff that the media has been saying. And it's been killing them all over the course of the week that they're going to lose, they're going to get blown out. Okay. You can think that if you want to. You can think that a team that's in the championship game, you can think that a team that's in the championship game does not want to go to the World Series, the Super Bowl. You can think that if you want to. I can almost guarantee you that they're going to play their butts off because at the end of the tunnel, it's a chance for them to go to the Super Bowl. And not many teams could say, oh, I went to the Super Bowl. It's a lot of teams sitting at home right now that wish they could say that. And the Lions are in great position to do that. Obviously, the Lions are going to have to get their defense going. And for that reason, so is the 49ers. Because the 49ers secondary has been trash lately. And so has the Lions secondary been trash. This game is going to ultimately come down to who scores the most points. It's going to come down to who scores the most points. We know the 49ers are going to put up the points with the best of them, as they should. We know Detroit is going to put up points with the best of them, as they've done it all year. We know Brock Purdy's going to do his thing. We know CMC, Christian McCaffrey's going to do his thing. You got the George Kittles. You got the Juwan Jennings, the Brandon Ayuk's. The one person from that 49ers team that I have failed to mention is a huge part of the outcome of this game. Deebo Samuel. He hurt his shoulder last week. We don't know if he's going to play. We don't know if he's not going to play. Coming down to it, they said it's a 50-50 chance. So it's probably going to lead right up into game time, whether he plays or not. So let me tell you this. If Deebo Samuel plays, it's a pretty good chance that the 49ers could win. But it's also still a good chance that Detroit could win, even if Deebo Samuel plays. But let me tell y'all something else. If Deebo Samuel does not play in this game, Detroit's going to win. And that's how crucial Deebo Samuel is to this team. If he does not play, the 49ers will not win this ball game. Period. They won't win. He's a huge part of what the 49ers do, and they need him. The 3 games that he missed this year, the 49ers were 0-3. The 3 games that Deebo missed this year. Brock Purdy looked horrible without him. And it all raised concern. What's going on with the 49ers? What's wrong with the 49ers? And not the 49ers were old. Deebo Samuel was out those 3 games, and they went 0-3. And when Debo came back, Brock Purdy looked like an elite quarterback again. And when he was out, Brock looked like trash. So I'm telling you now, if that man does not go out there and play on Sunday, Brock Purdy and the 49ers are in a world of trouble. Even though we know that their defense can keep them in it, their defense has kind of been trash lately. So we kind of don't know what to expect. Now, granted, last week, they kind of got on Brock Purdy and those guys about barely getting past the Green Bay Packers. Well, it rained last week, and you know it barely rains in California. It rained, so that threw those guys off. But they were still able to manage to go out there and win. They're still the guys that's going to the NFC Championship game. Even if they did barely beat the Packers, they're still one of the last two teams standing in the NFC. So, and then as far as Detroit, we know that Jared Goff's going to do his thing. We know that Jared Goff has the playoff experience. He's been to the Super Bowl with the Rams. Unfortunately for Jared, he couldn't get it done. He's going to have a second chance at it, possibly, if he wins this game, to go back to the Super Bowl. So he knows what it takes to get there. He just needs to finish the job if he can get there. I believe in Jared Goff. He's been pretty consistent. All he needed was a change of scenery to go to a new team, to reinvent himself, to get himself back together. And he's done a phenomenal job with that. Jamar Gibbs and David Montgomery, the two running backs, we know those guys are going to do their thing. David Montgomery had a bad game last week. You think that he's not going to come back and not have a good game this week? Oh, you are sadly mistaken. David Montgomery is going to have a good game this week. You can mark my words. Jamar Gibbs is going to run that thing down your throats, and he's going to have some receiving yards too. Mark my words on that. Sam Laporta is going to be big this week. And also, the Lions just signed another tight end with Zach Ertz, the former Super Bowl champion of the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz. He's on the practice squad this week. We will see if they will be able to activate him by Sunday. But he's also going to possibly be huge. He was released by the Arizona Cardinals in November of this season. Josh Reynolds, Jared Goff's favorite target. Those two were former Rams teammates, so they have a very good connection. He's going to be key, of course. He's been key throughout this playoff run for Detroit. And last but not least, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be huge, as he always is. He's the star wide receiver. He's going to do his thing. There's not no stopping Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's not going to be any stopping him. The Lions defense, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton, Aiden Hutchinson, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, just to name a few on the Lions defense. All those guys are going to be huge, especially Mr. Aiden Hutchinson, linebacker. He's going to be key to what you guys do on the defensive side of the ball. We know that Aaron Glenn is going to call a great game on the defensive side of the ball, as he always does. I honestly think that Aaron Glenn should have been in the running for a head coach opportunity, which he was in the running for it. He did a lot of interviews. He should have got a job, bottom line. But it's not all bad that he didn't get a job, because that means he gets to stay the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions as long as he doesn't get a job. And on the flip side of that, Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, was a candidate to get a head coaching job this year, and he hasn't gotten one. But as I said, look on the bright side. Ben Johnson's still going to be the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. He's not going anywhere, so you're still going to have both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson as your coordinators for the next year, possibly. So that's good news. For the 49ers side of the things, on their defensive side of the ball, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Sebastian Joseph Day, Randy Gregory, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Tre'Davious Ward, those guys are going to be key for the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball. As we know, Dre Greenlaw intercepted Jordan Love twice last week, so we know he's going to be huge. We know Nick Bosa is going to go out there and do his thing. We know Chase Young's going to go out there and get after it. We know Fred Warner's a dog. He's going to go out there and do his thing. So we know that those guys are going to do their thing defensively. The key to this game is always going to come down to offense. We're going to see if Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, can call those plays on offense. And we're going to see if Aaron Glenn, what he has up his sleeve, Detroit's defensive coordinator, to stop Kyle Shanahan and his terrific play calling. It's going to be a good game. It's going to go right down to the wire. I can promise you that. But counting out Detroit and saying they're going to get blown out, I did not agree with any of that, and I didn't like hearing any of that. So, may the best team win. Transitioning to the AFC with the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's no question about it that the Chiefs are at their 6th AFC Championship game. 6th straight AFC Championship game. It's hard to do that. It's very, very, very hard to do that. And you had to give Patrick Mahomes and those Chiefs teams credit when credit is due. One thing I want to address this week I've also been hearing is the GOAT conversation between Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. I don't want to hear Patrick Mahomes in the GOAT conversation yet. If he goes to the Super Bowl and he wins his 3rd ring, then we can start talking about Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady GOAT conversation. But until then, I don't want to hear Patrick Mahomes' name associated with Tom Brady until he gets that 3rd Super Bowl ring. Case closed on that. Now, going into this game, the Chiefs going up against Baltimore, it's going to be a heck of a game. But unlike the Lions and the 49ers, the Chiefs and the Ravens are going to come down to defense. Whoever can get a stop and stop these quarterbacks, that's what it's going to come down to. We already know it's hard to stop Patrick Mahomes. We already know it's hard to stop Lamar Jackson, especially when he could throw the ball and then he's off to the races and getting out and running. It's hard to stop that. I feel bad for both these team defenses because they're going to be tired after trying to get after these quarterbacks, man. I mean, my God. This is by far Kansas City's worst season. They were 11-6 this year. They led the league in most drop passes with 40 drop passes on the year. And they're still in the AFC Championship game. They still found a way to beat Buffalo. They still standing. Everybody thought they was going to fall flat on their face. And here they are in the championship game. They still keeping on. Patrick Mahomes has had to do a lot, way more this year than he's had to do in previous years. And he's still almost on his way to the Super Bowl. Andy Reid's still a genius, even though his mustache may freeze. He's still a genius as a coach. But John Harbaugh, he's going to be ready to coach his ball club. And like Dan Campbell, John Harbaugh is going to have his team fired up to go. And Baltimore's defense is nothing to be reckoned with. They are going to get after you with everything they got. To name a few, Jadeveon Clowney. We know Clowney's always going to get after the quarterback. We know Patrick Queen is going to be able to stop those Chiefs wide receivers from doing what they like to do. Roquan Smith, he's going to always get after the quarterback. Ronald Darby, he's going to be in the safety position ready to cover those Chiefs wide receivers. Kyle Van Noy, we always know that Kyle Van Noy is ready to get after the quarterback. Kyle Hamilton, star safety. We know that he's going to have eyes locked in with Patrick Mahomes to see what he's going to do. And we know that Kyle Hamilton's going to be reading those plays. Do not throw the ball, Patrick Mahomes, towards Kyle Hamilton's way. Because I promise you, if you do, it might not end well for you. Marlon Humphrey did not play last week. Star cornerback of the Baltimore Ravens. Hopefully he can come back this week. He's going to be a huge piece for the Ravens this week. And that's if he plays. If he plays. Marlon Humphrey's a huge part of what the Baltimore defense does. And if they do not have him in this game, that might come back and bite them in the butt. We know that Patrick Mahomes is going to do his thing. Isaiah Pacheco, keep running the ball like how you did in that Baltimore game. And the Chiefs offense is going to be just fine as long as you run the ball like you did in that last game that y'all played. We know Travis Kelce's going to do his thing, as he always does. It'll be no surprise if Taylor Swift's in the house again. MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You played with Aaron Rodgers. You played in big playoff games, so we know that you're going to come ready to play like you did last game. Rashid Rice, keep on doing what you're doing. You have been huge thus far for your team. Keep doing what you're doing. The moment's not too big for you. We know Lamar Jackson, as I mentioned, he's going to do his thing. He's going to give it all he has. I'm cheering for Lamar. I want him to go to the Super Bowl, but I also like Patrick Mahomes. Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, help Lamar in that running game. Make sure you take the pressure off Lamar in that running game, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, because Lamar's going to have a lot on his mind and a lot of other things that he's going to have to be able to do. So he might not be able to run the ball as effectively, especially with this Chiefs defense. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely, Nelson Aguilar. Y'all had good games last week. All of y'all had good games last week. Y'all need to have a good game this week. Make sure that Lamar can count on y'all. Last but not least, OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. We know what you can do. We know that you've been there, done that before. And if OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. can get to his second Super Bowl and win his second Super Bowl, he's a lock for the Hall of Fame. He's a lock. Mark my words. He's a lock if he can get to his second Super Bowl and win. Just like the NFC Championship, I can't even tell you who's going to win this AFC Championship game, honestly, with the Chiefs in Baltimore. These are two good teams. It's going to be a close game. But I can't tell you who's going to win. But I know it's going to be a close game. I know that it's going to come down to who gets the stop and who plays defense. This game is at Baltimore. Y'all tried to count out Patrick Mahomes last game because that was his first playoff game ever on the road, and he still went and beat Buffalo. If you telling me that he can't go to Baltimore and beat Baltimore, you are sadly mistaken. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know in the comment section who you guys think is going to win. I don't even know who's going to win. But at least y'all can tell me what y'all opinions are and what y'all think about it. Until then, I will catch you guys next week to discuss who's going to the Super Bowl. And enjoy you guys this weekend.